You're listening to the Plain Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to episode 223 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. My name's Neville Bounds and welcome everybody. Thanks very much indeed for joining. And joining me today in the kitchen studio over there is young Matt.
Oh, you're lovely. I never say that enough to you. Yes, I'm still in the kitchen studio. I'm on very important poppycat sitting duties, although I think I'm actually more here to continue watering Gemma's garden while she's away. But yes, it's been, I must admit, it's a lovely, PT UK Towers is a lovely place to live, it has to be said.
Yeah, it is good. Also joining us this week is pilot Pip. Hello, Pip. Whereabouts are you?
Hey, yes. Hi there. I am in... Well, very nice to be here, first of all. Thanks for the invite. I'm in the... And I'm not being sarcastic for once. The very tropical Luton.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's an absolutely gorgeous day here. I arrived a couple of hours ago and just went out for a run. It's just beautiful weather.
Yeah, it is.
So, not often I've got a nice thing to say about Luton.
No, indeed. I mean, the UK really has been rather sweltering this last couple of weeks, really, hasn't it? It's in fact, actually, Nev, before we started, Nev, you were saying actually that the weather in Portugal, where you were, was actually cooler than it is here.
Yes, it was about 25, 26 degrees, which is just right for that part of the world. But there was no humidity with it. But it was getting a bit stifling here. But I think next week is going to be very much the same as well.
They reckon so, yeah, absolutely.
That's rather good.
It is, absolutely. It's barbecue weather all round, I think.
I think so, yes. So, what's everybody been up to? What have you been up to this week, Matt? Anything exciting?
Well, I was given one task by Carlos actually while I am here, because I'm here till Tuesday looking after PT UK Towers, and I sat down and watched a film that I was ridiculed for not having seen recently, and I sat down and watched Top Gear in 3D for the very first time. So we are.
Top Gear,
not Top Gear at all. Top Gear. See, that's why I'm rubbish at this.
Top Gun.
Sat down and watched.
How could you get that wrong?
Shall we start again? Yeah, I don't think anybody will notice. It will be fine. Yeah, so I sat down and watched Top Gun for the first time in glorious high definition, Dolby surround soundy, etc., etc. It was really quite magical.
Oh, good. And so what have you been up to, Pip, with flying? Have you been up?
Yeah, I've been at work all week. I'm just on my last day tomorrow. They've just given me a short standby tomorrow morning. But otherwise, it's been a manic couple of days. We're well into our crazy season now. So 4 or 5 flights every day. I can't remember where I've been, but I did get a lovely night stop in Ibiza.
Oh, wow.
Months ago, which is one of my favourites. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the Old Town especially apparently is a very nice place to be, isn't it? Not so much, Clubland as they call it, but...
Yeah, we stayed on a slightly quieter part of the island, just not too far from the airport, but it's just really nice this time of year.
From your point of view, Pip, does like what we call the school holidays? Because obviously, you're picking up people all around the world, etc., etc. Is it do like some holidays have a sort of bearing on how busy your schedule is?
Oh yeah, very much. The half-term holidays, whenever they are, February or April, whenever, they always make a dramatic difference to our flight volume. So yeah,
keeps you busy, as they say.
Yeah, we're probably pushing about 300 flights a day at the moment.
Wow.
It's only going to get busier once the summer holidays start.
That's nearly as many as Ryanair. What's going on?
Well, not quite as many as Ryanair, but it's a lot. It's probably more than, I don't know, Virgin or someone like that.
Yeah.
So we're busy. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All good for business.
Sitting around.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, it means you don't have to spend very long in Luton.
Oh, that's right. To be honest, I quite enjoy Luton. Most people don't, but it's if you want to go to Curry, then Luton's the place to go.
I must admit, I'm not a fan of Luton, but that's just several bad experiences.
You got to know the right parts.
Right. Okay.
As long as you got your stab vest on, you'll be right.
Okay. Good. Lovely. Anyway, yes, there are other dodgy towns are available, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed.
Yes, I'm a little bit tired today. We had one of our awards ceremonies last night in London, and I think we probably all overdid it slightly.
Right. Did you have a couple of sherbet lemons last night, Mr. Bounce?
But did actually manage to show the footy in glorious HD on a very large projector.
Wow.
In the room, so that people, whilst they're having the dinner, they could watch the England-Belgium match.
And what a terrible shame it wasn't worth watching, Mr. Bounds.
So that's right. It's a waste of time, really, wasn't it?
But never mind. We're still through. That's fine.
Yeah. So, time to talk about the commercial aviation segment. So, if you're ready, Matt.
I'm doing my very best. He says pressing buttons at warp factor 9. Yes, carry on.
And if you're ready, Pip.
Yes, sir.
Yep, off we go. Well, starting off this week on the sun.co.uk website, which is obviously where we get all our aviation information from. It says that British Airways passenger blasts disgraceful airline for giving him a Nutri-Grain bar for breakfast on an £800 long-haul flight.
Wow. British
Airways say that they offer a lighter second meal during their night flights, as customers prefer to have the extra time to sleep. And Daniel Hayter from Ledbury had paid $2,200 or £1,600 for his return flights from New York to London when he was offered the breakfast snack. He tweeted a picture of the bar with the caption, "Disgraceful British Airways for the price I pay for my ticket, and this is breakfast. Your penny-pinching CEO should be fired." This was the breakfast catering you offered on a $2,200 return flight from New York to London. It's a disgrace. Well, BA was quick to apologise, and they said they would notice comments, as many previous passenger comments had been used to change the snack bar offering previously. And they added, "We hope you'll see positive changes very soon." But Daniel was unimpressed, telling the airline, there was nothing wrong with the service that I've been used to for over 30 years. It's gone downhill rapidly. Why not just go back to what you used to serve? A BA spokesperson has since revealed to the Sun Online Travel that Daniel was given a 3-course meal earlier in the flight. They said, "We offer a lighter second meal during our night flights, as so many of our customers tell us they would prefer to have the extra time to sleep. We hope Mr. Hayter enjoyed his 3-course hot meal served on fine china and linen." Have you noticed there's a bit of a sort of a point being made there?
Yes, a little bit, yes.
Served earlier in his 6-hour flight. In January, BA said that it was reintroducing the second meal option on several long-haul flights following a backlash at its removal last year. Changes were part of a multi-million-pound revamp promised by BA boss Alex Cruz before Christmas. The airline also was slated last year for removing free food and drink from its short-haul flight and selling Marks and Spencer's sandwiches and snacks instead. Well, we heard about that, didn't we? So
yeah.
You're not going to please all of the people all of the time, that's for sure. But I think they could have done slightly better than just a Nutri-Grain bar.
Part of me feels like this is just old news, though. Do you know what I mean? It's just... Yes. You know,
what do you think, Nev? Here, when I read this, I assumed he was on an economy ticket, but then it mentioned that the 3-course meal on fine china and the rest of it.
Yeah,
so I'm wondering
he's on at least a premium economy ticket for £1,600 or a very good business class fare.
Yeah, so it's still kind of shoddy, isn't it? Nutri-Grain bar, dear BA.
Yeah.
Yes, and actually looking at his seat, very difficult to see from the picture there, but it looks as though that could be a business class seat to me,
really?
Or at least a premium economy one. So
because I'm not in the habit of sticking up for BA here, but of course there could be a very good explanation, perhaps when they, if they were offering, because I can't believe that he's, was he the only one who was offered this? I mean, have we got all of the story here? That's what I'm worried about, especially when it's involving the Sun.
Some selective reporting going on there.
Well, this is what worries me a little bit. It has to be said. But yes, if indeed that was all that you were offered for breakfast, then I do feel very sorry for you, sir. But if we don't have the full picture, I'm not sure. I think I'm slightly less interested.
Yeah, I think you're right. Dead right, absolutely. But so on to the next story for you, Matt.
Yes, indeed, the next story. This is on the Daily Star, which obviously is another quality publication that we go to for all of our Ryanair news in this case, and the headline, and there's several pictures here that I can't put up because it is the Daily Star. Ryanair passengers stuck on tarmac for 2 hours in heat wave. Passengers on a flight departing Birmingham Airport have reported being stuck on tarmac for more than 2 hours in blistering temperatures. Frustrated passengers on the Ryanair flight to Genoa from Birmingham Airport were delayed for 2 hours and 50 minutes after their flight was due to take off at 1:35 p.m. Flight number RYR, that's not right. Perhaps they were doing a code share there. Anyway, RYR 8046 /
Well, that's Ryanair's prefix rather than using FR.
Yeah.
RYR is the
okay. Fair enough. Good. Okay.
code for them.
Has now taken off from Birmingham Airport. The flight was scheduled to land in Spain at 17:20 p.m. One concerned mum took to Twitter as to ask Ryanair for updates. My daughter is on flight FR 8046. What's happening? 1 hour's delay. Now been told stuck on tarmac in hot aircraft for up to 3 hours as slot missed, but possibly longer, and no waters on board. Disappointed and a very worried mum. The delays comes as Brits melt in temperatures of up to 30.2 degrees today. Parts of the UK are hotter than many holiday hotspots in Spain and beyond, which we covered at the top of the show. Public Health England has issued a health warning, warning that vulnerable people, namely OAPs and children, need to take care during exceptionally hot spells of weather. When temperatures reached 32 degrees during the summer of 2009, 300 people more than usual were passed away. Figures, I'm not sure why that's relevant, so I'm going to stop storing. And the picture, as you would expect, underneath is a lovely picture of 1976, the summer that Britain sizzled, and scantily clad ladies lying on what looked like very cracked football pitches or something. But there you go. It's the Daily Star. We shouldn't be less expressed. So, well, again, not enough detail here in regard to why they were on the tarmac. I don't know. That may be commonplace for a lot of airlines these days. I
think it says something about missing their slot, which probably refers to a CTOT, calculated takeoff time slot, which is a thing imposed on us from Eurocontrol.
Yeah.
And there's very much a random element to them. They go backwards, they go forwards, and if you miss it, you could be stuck there for hours waiting for another arm.
Right.
So they're quite tricky. But I've got a certain amount of sympathy here. There's only so much air conditioning you can pump into an aircraft, even with the old APU going or some ground air conditioning plugged in, when it's just that hot outside. And you're on a full aeroplane, it can get a little bit stuffy.
Yeah, I mean, is the issue here possibly though? I mean, I know Ryanair gets a rough go of it, if you see what I mean, because they aren't overly generous in regard to information. But I mean,
there's not, when you're dealing with a slot like that, there's not an awful lot you can do. Let's say you've got a slot in 2 hours' time.
Yeah,
you might say, well, let us off the aircraft then, and we'll go and get something to eat. But the trouble is that slot, as I said, it can be ever so slightly random. That slot might suddenly change into in 30 minutes time.
Right. Okay.
It might come back an hour and a half. So if you just let everyone off and suddenly you get a big improvement,
yeah,
then you're going to miss that one as well. So it's,
I suppose, sort of stuck between a rock.
Leave everyone on board.
Yeah, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, I guess, on this particular
case. And it's difficult. I was on just a couple of days ago, actually, on a BA146, which is a real treat, actually. Don't often get to go on those in Dublin, but that's a knackered old machine, and it was swelteringly hot outside, and it was miserable inside. It gets so hot and stuffy, even with those 4 hair dryers doing their best to pump in some air.
Yeah.
Some people say it's 4 APUs are the engines, in fact.
Well, even that would have been a blessing. I think it was 4 Morphy Richard hairdryers.
Right. Oh, fair enough. Sounds like a plan. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, dear. Pip, I think yours is the next story, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, sir. Right. So this is from CNBC.com. What you get for $111 airfare to Iceland. So this is a reporter has taken a flight with WOW Air and is telling us all about it. And I believe this is she, says, budget airline WOW made a name for itself by offering rock-bottom fares for seats aboard its purple jets across the Atlantic. The catch? Fees for seat selection, food and luggage. I was curious about the airline because I had heard some negative feedback from other travellers about rigid fees and a lack of information from the carrier when things go wrong. WOW also ranked last amongst 72 airlines worldwide in a recent study by AirHelp, a company that helps travellers get compensated by airlines when things go wrong with their flights. So is it worth it to So is it worth it to fly long haul with an ultra low cost airline? Well, that depends upon your expectations and how many wardrobe changes you require on your trip. That's why I think this is a woman writing this.
Right, okay.
Oh, can I say that? Probably not.
No,
Sorry,
probably not. But we'll pretend.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. That's all right. Auntie Liz will get her own back. Don't you worry. Yeah.
I'll continue before anyone notices. I snagged a ticket in early June to Iceland from JFK International Airport in New York, and I tried to keep costs low, starting with my subway and air train ride to the airport. This is a long story, by the way. The ticket was just about $300. That's $111 for the first leg out, a great deal for a fare less than a week before travelling. I was headed to Iceland to meet with WOW's CEO, Scully Morgerson. The airline chief executive at the last minute had to move our meeting to another date because he was going to be out of the country, a date change which cost $400 given the difference in airfare. At one point, I accidentally chose the wrong date and was charged $51, and a customer service agent who picked up the call an hour later said it couldn't be refunded because it was my fault. In brackets, it was my error, but since I had handed over an additional $400, I thought I'd have some chance of getting that waived. I took the gamble and did not select a seat for my outbound flight, which would have cost $7 and at least $40 for more legroom. I lucked out with a window seat because a carry-on bag costs at least $45. I used a tape measure to make sure my small backpack met the standards for a free personal item. For a longer trip, I would recommend packing as light as possible. Doing laundry in Barcelona is cheaper than bringing a bigger bag with you for $45. Okay. Right, the flight was scheduled to take off at 12:40 a.m. WOW charges for food on board, and because the flight is so late, the best bet is to eat a meal before the airport or take a gamble that there'll be food on board. Bring your own water. WOW charges for bottled water on board. Okay, most airlines do.
Yeah.
A late arriving aircraft pushed back the departure time, at first by about 40 minutes. I received a text message from the airline at 3:30 p.m. about the delay. There wasn't any information about further delays until passengers arrived at the airport.
Do you think a lot of this? I mean, this is obviously quite a sort of scathing review, I suppose. But do you think possibly, perhaps, it's because? I mean, bearing in mind she's an American in this case, perhaps it's. I mean, we're so very used to what I call the low cost model here in Europe and the UK, especially. Do you think it's just that perhaps it's where she's used to perhaps travelling with what I call the legacy carriers and stuff more? Perhaps
I think the low cost model's pretty well established over there as well.
Is it? Yeah.
And even on the legacy carriers, they're
there's a trimming.
From my experience, anyway, you'll end up buying water and food on board, and the service isn't great. So no, I don't think this would have been anything new to her.
No. Okay. Fair enough.
This story goes on an awful lot. So if anyone wants to find it, I'm sure they can read the
absolutely.
notes. But,
indeed.
Is anything of any?
CNBC.com is the website, and just search for WOW Air. I'm sure you'll find it. It's I don't know. Any thoughts, Nev?
I think doing budget airline operations within a continent, so the US in the case of Southwest, for example, and EasyJet and Ryanair and others in the European region, is quite straightforward. When you're going across continents, I think there's a lot more costs involved, and the cost model's really got to work. They've got a lot of commercial analysis to make those routes work
viable.
I guess. But interesting to see if that will be could be the I don't think it'll be the norm, but I think there'll be lots of other possibilities for it in the future. Definitely.
No, I think I agree with you. Yeah, very much so. Okay, next story I think is with you. So.
Sorry, Pip, what did you say?
Did I Skype out? Sorry, I was saying it's all about choices. If people want it, then they'll pay for it. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
true indeed.
absolutely.
And as I say, I say it before and I say it again. I mean, we use Ryanair essentially as the buses of the skies, and they very adequately took me to Rome. I wasn't expecting any frills or anything like that. It is what it is, and it's a fantastic and very cheap way of getting from one part of the world to the other.
It is, absolutely. So next story on then, it's on the NBCnews.com website, and it says that Boeing has unveiled plans for what could be the world's first hypersonic airliner, a sleek, futuristic-looking craft that the Seattle-based company said will be capable of flying 5 times the speed of sound, or about 3,800 miles per hour. At that speed, which is Mach 5, it will be possible to travel from New York City to London in about 2 hours instead of the 8-hour trip on a conventional airliner. That means someone could conceivably fly overseas for a meeting and return home in a single day. Humankind has always wanted to go faster, always wanted to do things faster, says Kevin Bocott, who's chief scientist of hypersonics at Boeing. People cannot make time, so there is an inherent value in time itself. The as yet unnamed plane would be much faster not only than conventional airliners, which cruise at about 550 miles an hour, but also the supersonic Concorde aircraft that flew routes across the North Atlantic Ocean from 1976 to 2003. And Concorde, of course, was produced by a British and French consortium, which could reach just over Mach 2, meaning that the New York City to London trip took just under 4 hours. Boeing's proposed plane, however, described in broad strokes at an industry conference in Atlanta this week, could be used for military applications as well as commercial aviation, but it might take 20 to 30 years to take to the skies, Bocott said. Supersonic and hypersonic, meaning 5 times the speed of sound or faster, have been hyped as the next era of commercial aviation since at least the 1950s, but with the exception of Concorde, which was permanently grounded 3 years after a fatal crash in France, building such airplanes has proven to be an elusive goal. It's been a dream for some while now, said Stuart Craig, an assistant professor of aerospace and mechanical engineering at the University of Arizona, who is not affiliated with Boeing. We've been striving for this hypersonic technology for the better part of half a century, but in recent years, advances in computational technology and materials technology have made it much more in grasp. That's definitely an American way of saying it, isn't it? One key question for Boeing, though, and other aircraft manufacturers will be whether airline passengers will be willing to pay the higher ticket prices that hypersonic air travel would command. And those high prices, along with limited routes, played a role in the demise of Concorde, says Mike Sinnott, Boeing's Vice President of Future Airplane Development. We can all do kinds of cool things, but those cool things have led to something that creates value, or at the end of the day, it's not going to be successful, he said. In general, people flew on Concorde as a novelty. It didn't change the world, and the economics weren't right. I don't actually necessarily agree with that.
No, I don't at all.
No. Because Concorde was actually a very successful operation.
It was.
But the vast, in fact, it actually made British Airways a great deal of money. And I remember Captain John Hutchinson saying in an interview once that the regular passengers had a survey. And the question was, or one of the questions was, what did you think you paid for your Concorde ticket today? And of course, businessmen and women high up, they really didn't know. So they averaged all the answers out, and they basically came up with a figure. And it made a lot of money for British Airways over a long period of time.
Yeah, and also, people were flying on it because there was something very cool about flying on Concorde. It didn't necessarily matter whether it was businessmen or whatever. I mean, I think if it was still functioning now, I know obviously it would have been very, very old by now, but I mean, if there was an equivalent now, I still think it would be flying with full seats. I
think I'm not sure that the crash in France necessarily had the big effect on it, but the biggest problem was, of course, it was the economic period that this all happened in. So those holes in the Swiss cheese sort of lined up a bit. But
there was, as we know, there was a lot of politics behind it.
Yeah.
And Airbus just frankly didn't want to provide the support anymore, so they
exactly right.
manoeuvred it in such a way that it's.
So, do you think we're going to see hypersonic travel in your lifetime, Pip?
Well, I suppose that depends on how long I live, but
Right,
I hope
okay.
so.
You're
Yeah.
feeling okay at the moment, then?
Yeah. You're not well, Pip. Is this your way of telling us? Is that what
just-
this crazy running is all about? All of a sudden.
No, I think I hope we'll see a return to supersonic passenger
Yep.
flights. Hypersonic, which I didn't know, but this article says is above Mach 5. Cool. I hope we see that as well. But it'd be nice. I think, there's another company who have been pushing quite hard. I forget what they're called, but they're developing some sort of supersonic business jet of sorts, sort of a 19, 20-seat passenger plane. And maybe there'll be a market for that. It's the thing about the sonic boom, which was the big problem for Concorde, as you remember. If the environmentalists and the politicians hadn't got on their back about that, and if Concorde had been allowed to fly over land, then it would have been an even bigger success. So if they can overcome that thing with the sonic booms, which apparently they're developing
Ways of making it
what
quieter,
it is, ways around it, ways to dissipate that sonic boom. If they can get around that, then maybe that really will take off in a big way. I hope it does.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it. I'd love to fly one as well, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But we ask the question, don't we, of pilots every time we're lucky enough to interview one, and we always ask the question: if you could choose any aircraft, what would you most like to fly? And so many of them say, "Oh, I'd love to fly in or fly Concorde." It is such an iconic thing. I just. I don't know. Captain Al is very much agreeing with you, by the way. He reckons he disagrees as well, saying that Concorde was hugely profitable for British Airways, and it's Nico Rieger is suggesting that maybe they'll rename it the Speedy Lemon, the hyper. Do you think
that'll be appropriate?
Yes, I think so. Is that after your banana by any chance? Then ever possibly.
Yes.
Indeed.
So moving on, then next story is for you, Matt.
Yes, indeed, and this is this aeroplane amazes me. It really does. It's and of course I was very lucky to see a similar variant landing at Toulouse when I was out there with Owen. But anyway, this is on the AIN online, and the headline is "First Beluga XL rolls out of the Airbus paint hangar," and I'll pop the picture up when I finish reading the story. But the first Beluga XL rolled out of the Airbus's paint shop in Toulouse on Thursday, unveiling a special livery in the image of a beluga, which is so cool. One of 6 choices submitted to Airbus employees through a poll in which 20,000 people participated. The livery garnered 40% of the votes. The Beluga XL will now undergo ground testing before first flight during the summer. Airbus decided to build the Beluga XL in November 2014 to address the transport and ramp up capacity requirements for the company beyond 2019. Engineers based on the put my teeth back in and try that again. Engineers based the new oversized transport on the A330-200 freighter, employing extensive reuse of existing components and equipment. Newly developed components include the Beluga's lowered cockpit, cargo bay structure, and rear end and tail. Airbus estimates the fleet of 5 Beluga XL aircraft will provide it with 30% more transport capacity than its current fleet of 5 A300-600 ST Belugas that can currently carry. Operated by Airbus subsidiary airline Airbus Transport International, the existing fleet carries complete sections of Airbus aircraft built at various sites in Europe to final assembly lines in Toulouse, France, Hamburg, Germany, and Seville in Spain. Plans for the first of 5 Beluga XLs to fly next year and enter service in 2019, while Airbus continues to operate the existing models until it retires the last of the 5 A300-based airplanes in 2025. Airbus has chosen Rolls-Royce Trent 700s to power the new Belugas, along with the company's Total Care engine support package, in a contract value to be $700 million. Oh, I do love that number. That is a huge number. And this is, so the paint job on this is absolutely outstanding. I really love it here. So they have literally made it look like a dolphin, which is just fantastic. It's even got the little smile. I mean, you look at that and you just think, how on earth does that thing get in the air? It's just like, I mean, they don't even seem to have any particular special. You know, it's still only got. Is that 2 engines? It's only got, or perhaps they haven't finished.
It is, yeah.
Is it only going to have 2 engines?
Yes.
Wow. You wouldn't have thought there'd be enough power to get that, because it's not the most aerodynamic thing in the world.
Yes, I mean, engine technology has just gone incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the size of and the amount of power and the amount of thrust that these engines can produce these days. But yeah, it's not a pleasant-looking aircraft, is it? But,
I'm going to disagree with you there. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm with Pip on this.
The paint scheme was interesting. That's the first time I've seen that. Well, actually, I just happened to fly into Toulouse this morning.
Oh, wow.
And I looked across to the Airbus factory, and do you know what? Yeah. I didn't see that aircraft at all.
Okay, right, fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I saw lots of other lovely things. I saw an absolutely gorgeous A350, freshly painted in Iberia colours.
Oh, nice.
That was really lovely, but I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I must admit we were very lucky because obviously it was still sort of in. It got like the undercoat, primer coat, if you see what I mean, when we saw it, because it was being moved from one part of the factory to the other while we were on our bus having a tour. So it was a real sort of exclusive look, if you like.
I used to quite regularly see the current belugas. We used to on the Hawker flying to Horden. Or Harden, Al's going to tell me off in the chat room now.
More than likely. Yes.
We used to fly in there a lot, so we always used to see one of the daily services. And that's an interesting looking aircraft as well.
Oh dear, it's nice to see that Al's up to his usual trick. So he's saying you can't beat a remodelled tail end, apparently, which is I think advice for life in general, really. And he's sort of saying, really, from my point of view, he's actually sort of just saying, like, to me, like that it's not carrying heavy weights, just bulky wings and presumably like the hulls and things, isn't it? Like the tube, for want of a better word.
That's the correct word, I believe. The tube.
Oh, the tube, is it? Oh, get me.
Yes, definitely. That's what we call it.
Indeed.
The Airbus tube.
Yeah. As Mariana says, are you chatting while you're packing, Al? You just can't let these opportunities. But we don't want to know what he's typing with, I think, is more what I'm worried about. We all know what he's packing. Like. Yeah, indeed. There's a thought. Yes. Anyway, yes. Somebody dig me out of this hole, will they, please? Pip, I think you're next.
Is it me? All right. So it's another Airbus story, actually. And apologies, I haven't pre-read this one. So let me see if I can...
Flight Global, I think, is the website anyway.
Yes, it is flightglobal.com, a very useful website. The first Airbus ACJ 320neo has entered final assembly in Hamburg, Germany, and is on schedule for delivery to its UK customer, Acropolis Aviation, in the fourth quarter.
Who are they?
Acropolis. The Farnborough headquartered luxury charter company launched the VIP version of the A320neo in 2015 and selected the CFM LEAP 1A engine for the aircraft in 2017. Acropolis has appointed Swiss completions house AMAC Aerospace to outfit the narrowbody, which will feature 19 seats and a private master bedroom with luxury ensuite bathroom designed by French studio Albert Pintot. AMAC is scheduled to complete the project within 12 months. A second A320neo is also due for green delivery, whatever that means, at the end of 2018 to an unnamed customer. The aircraft will be outfitted by Comlux Completions in Indianapolis. Airbus has secured 9 orders for the ACJ 320neo family, of which 3 are the smaller A319neo variant. Airbus is aiming to deliver the first example in the second quarter of 2019 to Germany's K5 Aviation. The charter management company has appointed Dutch maintenance, repair and overhaul firm Fokker Techniek to outfit the aircraft on behalf of its unnamed owner. Airbus has more than 190 corporate airliners in service worldwide.
Wow.
The end.
There you go. Yeah, it's... I was just trying to find a bit of information about it, but so it's
so these are just private jets. Outfitted for I suppose some of them are bought by charter companies, as the story mentions, but a fair few they're just privately owned. You see quite a lot of these out there. The more popular model until now has seemed to be the Boeing BBJ, the Boeing business jet. You see quite a lot of those around. a lot of Middle Eastern registered ones. Most of the Middle Eastern royal families have their own BBJs. But yeah, there's certainly a few Airbuses knocking around. And I'm starting to see now actually quite a few privately owned Embraer 175s converted into bizjets.
Oh, okay.
That's quite a new thing. It's only this last few months I've started to see those.
I mean, and the 175s, I mean, what's what I call a conventional layout? I mean, how many people would that normally carry?
It's about 100. It's a slightly smaller.
Right, so it's quite a big plane then.
It is. I mean, if you see these things interiors when they're decked out as a bizjet, they're really quite lovely.
Quite luxurious.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
You could certainly live in one. Bigger than my Farnborough, that's for sure.
I bet,
and the jets we fly are pretty snazzy, but these things are something else.
Yeah.
They've got, master double bedrooms with showers and
wow,
conference facilities and whatnot. Very
Goodness
nice
me! So you really could have your conference in the air, before, and then move on to the next thing as soon as you land.
That's it. Yeah, they don't name a price here, but I'm betting it cost a few quid.
Yeah, no, I would put money on it. Nev,
Probably more than my A320 Neo lanyard that was delivered just the other day, which
That's rather special.
Well, it is, except it's a bit of a massive fail because the fob bit on the bottom says Airbus A330 on it.
Oh,
so
dear.
It's not gone well, is it?
Yes,
So,
a stern letter, I think, Nev. I think that's absolutely that's what's required. Anyway, before you start crying, let's move on to the next story.
Yes. Now, obviously, we have made an editorial decision not to talk about Brexit on this show,
right?
Because when Pip and I are on it, it's just not good. It's not a good subject. Unfortunately, I don't select the stories.
No, Carlos does. Yes, absolutely.
Carlos has done some editorial control here,
yes,
and he's directed us towards the express.co.uk website. The headline says, Project Fear dismantled by Boeing's ambitious £40 million plan for Brexit Britain.
Ooh.
Aircraft manufacturer Boeing is set to invest a further £40 million in the United Kingdom in an ambitious plan for post-Brexit Britain. Boeing Sheffield engineer James Needham said, and the investment comes as Airbus raises concerns about the risks of a no-deal Brexit. Mr. Needham said that Boeing's £40 million plans were originally announced in September last year and will result in the expansion of its production line in Sheffield after Brexit. He insisted that the company remained confident about Britain's role in the industry after its withdrawal from the EU, despite aerospace giant Airbus warning it would consider moving in the event of a no-deal Brexit. Mr. Needham told Sophie Ridge on Sky News the round figure would be 30 to 40 million pounds, and we have been in the UK for 80 years, and that's a proud history in Sheffield of innovation and technology and manufacturing excellence. This is reflected in the UK's rich heritage of aerospace innovation. This is a continuation of that. Mr. Needham said that Boeing had ambitious plans to show the company is growing, saying the Sheffield facility is planning to reach full rate production by next year. He continued, we're here and we're growing. We have an ambitious plan to deliver successful manufacturing quality. 146 components will leave Sheffield and be on every 737 from the middle of next year when we hit full rate production. Airbus CEO Tom Williams warned the government that 14,000 jobs in the UK will be put in jeopardy should Theresa May fail to deliver on a new trade agreement with Brussels. Mr. Williams also said, we are already beginning to press the button on our crisis actions. We have got to be able to protect our employees, our customers and our shareholders, and we can't do that in the current situation. But their announcement has been met with criticism from the front bench, with Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt claiming that Airbus could undermine the Prime Minister's negotiating strategy. Mr. Hunt said, I thought it was completely inappropriate for businesses to be making these kinds of threats for one very simple reason. We're at an absolutely critical moment in the Brexit decisions, and what that means is that we need to get behind Theresa May to deliver the best possible Brexit, a clean Brexit. Well, make of that what you will, but we're all still going to be doing business, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so.
This has sorted itself out.
I think so. I mean, there is I suppose some people are nervous because, and O'Leary has been quite vocal in his concerns over sort of getting the air rights, I suppose, sorted out. I don't know if that's the correct word, Pip. I'm sure you can correct me there. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's planes aren't suddenly not going to be able to fly, are they? I mean, I don't know. Any comments, Pip?
Yes.
Okay, good.
My favourite bit there was Jeremy Hunt claiming that our Prime Minister has a Brexit strategy.
Okay, right.
That's a rather grand claim.
Oh.
I must admit, I'm quite ignorant here. I didn't realise that Boeing had a production facility in Sheffield. Do you know what they do up there, Nev?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. All this stuff about Project Fear, I can't help feeling is nonsense. Big businesses like Airbus are not. Obviously, they would like to see us remain within the EU. It's in their own interest, but they're there to make money. That's it. They've not got any loyalties one way or the other. They need to make a profit. Yeah. And if they think they can make more money somewhere else, then they'll do it. It's not
absolutely
some sort of veiled threat or bluff.
So here we go. So Boeing announced in February 2017 that it plans to open a production facility in Sheffield, United Kingdom, to manufacture high-tech components for Boeing's next-generation 737, 737 MAX, and 777 aircraft. There you are. So they're making high-tech, high-end components for the aircraft.
Well, that's great. I hope that continues, and I hope they plan more investment into that. But that's got no bearing on what Airbus are going to do. On the flip side, I must say I'm slightly peed off at Airbus. After all, Airbus is not a exclusively French or European country. It's a conglomerate of many companies, and one of the biggest parts of that conglomerate was BAE Systems. So it's as much a British company as anything else. Yeah. So it would be a bit of a poke in the eye if they did up sticks and move somewhere else.
And Rolls-Royce, of course, with
lots of posturing going on, isn't there? At this stage?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
There is, but I think without getting too political, I think our politicians would be extraordinarily foolish to dismiss this stuff as scaremongering and Project Fear, as they call it.
I mean, certainly there's, in this week just gone, there's been some high-level talks, I think, going on sort of into the wee small hours, I think, to try and get a lot of this all sorted.
As a very personal example, my company that I work for, SafeJets, although we're a UK-registered company, our head office is here in the UK, our actual operational headquarters and our AOC, our Air Operator Certificate, is based in the EU, in Portugal. So there's huge question marks that we can't answer yet until we know what's going to happen. There's huge question marks as to what we'll have to do. We'll probably, like some other companies have already said, we'll probably end up having to start a UK AOC and have some aircraft registered here, because otherwise we're not going to be able to do the intra-UK flights. If we want to fly from London to Glasgow in a European registered airplane, then that's there's issues with cabotage there, so we're going to have to make provisions for that.
Well, of course, and Ryanair have been sort of quite, it's well known that they do have some UK based. There is a Ryanair UK now that's all been set up in readiness for whatever happens in 2019.
And that's fair enough, but there's, with only a few months to go now, there's so many questions still remaining.
Yeah,
and again, without getting too political, I've got no faith in our leadership team, in May, in Hunt, in Davis to run these negotiations.
I think we should.
It's not looking good.
I think we should move on, but maybe just sort of finish by saying I think a lot of people are very nervous about it all being left to the last minute. I think perhaps that's fair,
I mean, it could turn out to be great. I really hope it does. I mean, it's a big risk the direction we're taking, and I just wonder if the rewards are worth the risk. I hope
they are. Yeah, absolutely.
I think in the short term it is going to be a bit of a mess.
Yeah, but then I think with any change, obviously, it's that change is never good. It's. I think it'll sort itself out. Anyway, Brexit. Move on.
Maybe we should do a Brexit special one week.
We could
talk about that.
Yeah,
we could get it all out of the way in one hit. Then couldn't
we could invite lots of high level tub thumpers, as I call them. I made the terrible mistake of sitting down and watching Good Evening Britain for a little while last night, and certain Piers Morgan was quite vocal on the whole subject, and indeed was Danny Dyer, which is one of the funniest things I think I've seen in a long time. And I'm frightened to say he actually made an awful lot of sense, and it's a bit worrying that the only person in the UK
funny
that's...
enough, we were talking about this over breakfast. We just happened to catch a bit of this awful programme after the football last night. And Danny Dyer, I mean, not one of the country's leading thinkers, I think it's fair to say.
No, but it's a bit alarming. He seems to be the only one talking sense when it comes to this awful
I think that's bloody worrying when people are claiming that Danny Dyer is talking sense.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I mean, but I must admit, when I was watching it, I did think, oh, that's worryingly informed of you. But anyway, there we are. Yes. Anyway, moving on quickly. I'm gonna move on to the next. We're going to fall out on air. Yes. Anyway, Newsweek is the next website, newsweek.com. And I'm not quite sure where Carlos was going with this story, but it says in the headline, Lost Rabbit Caused Bomb Alert at International Airport. So a bomb squad was called to investigate a suspicious bag at an international airport, only to find that it was an abandoned rabbit. I said rabbit, ladies and gentlemen. Australian Federal Police, the AFP, called explosive experts in when a pink bag was discovered in the female toilets at Adelaide Airport. But instead of an explosives device, the team found it to be the Lorna Jane branded bag, a male rabbit in a red harness. AFP Acting State Manager Commander Brett McCann told ABC News, "We treat everything in the aviation space very seriously, but our bomb appraisal officers certainly weren't expecting to find a rabbit in unattended luggage." That's it. That's the end of the story. There's nothing else in really to go in there. Thankfully, the rabbit is safe and well, and hopefully the owner will be found. There we are.
Yes. There's so much material that we could have
absolutely
covered there.
Yeah, indeed. Should we go back to Brexit? No, let's not.
No. But this next story that Pip's going to do is my favourite story of the week.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I rather like it as well. So I'm sure everybody has seen this already. This is from the businessinsider.com. A man in his underwear ran onto tarmac at Atlanta's airport, jumped onto the wing of a Delta plane and pounded on the windows while yelling at passengers inside.
As you do.
So was this just an angry passenger? Was it just a nutcase? Well, let's find out. A man was arrested on Tuesday at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport after police say he ran onto the tarmac and jumped onto the wing of a plane. Shortly before 5 p.m., Joe, how do you pronounce his name? Jarin Jones?
Yes.
Jarin Jones, 19 years old, sprinted onto a runway at the world's busiest airport and ran up to a Delta Airlines plane from Miami that had just landed. In a video obtained by WSB TV, the man could be seen wearing only grey boxer briefs. WSB TV said the airport confirmed that he jumped a fence to get on the runway. Do we have that video footage?
Yeah, it's running now, sir. Yes. Indeed.
Oh, brilliant! I have not seen it. Let me just.
Yeah. It's running. It's.
Ooh, those are well chosen briefs.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely.
Very nice.
Just showing off a bit.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
You know what? If you got it, flaunt it. Why not?
Yeah, well, quite right. Amen. Yes.
What's he doing?
Well, we're not sure. He's sitting under the wing, which is a bit peculiar.
Do we know what type of aeroplane that was?
I think it was an MD-88, wasn't it?
Oh, was it really? Oh, anyone we know?
Yeah. Well, this is what I was thinking. You know,
Yeah.
Perhaps he couldn't download the latest version of the APG.
APG, absolutely. That's very controversial, Dave. I don't know what you mean.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Gosh, look at that. Shall I continue with the story?
I should. Yeah, why not? That's very
brazen
of him.
WSB TV obtained cockpit recordings from the airplane. Do we have that audio at all?
Steady. Look, I did well to find the video.
No?
All right.
Okay. No. Not criticising. Well done. He's tossing some stuff around. The person could be heard
Good,
saying
right.
the recording.
Okay.
My guess is he's got his clothes off and now he's laying on the pavement, maybe doing push-ups. Well, why not?
Well, he does look like someone who might have done one or two in his time.
Yeah,
I will give him his
due. Ripped, I think, is the...
That is the correct term, sir. Yes, very
okay.
good. Yeah.
The cell phone video shot by a passenger on the Delta flight appears to show the man yelling, talking to himself and gesturing. WSB TV reported that Jones jumped onto the wing of the Delta plane, pounded on the windows, at once disturbing and amusing some passengers. Jones was taken into custody within 5 minutes.
Yes, I don't
Delta
think...
declined to comment, and Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. One of the runways was forced to close, and officials redirected traffic to other runways until police examined the plane. And I think that's all the useful information in the story. So that's rather...
Yeah, I mean,
episode, isn't it?
There's concern there, really. I mean, it's maybe this fence isn't high enough for me. Just to sort of clear the fence and basically jump in. I mean, it's
well, where there's a wheelie, there's a way.
Indeed, yeah. Agreed. Yes, well done. Yes. Shall we move on?
Yes. Just a final thought on that. I mean, obviously, Atlanta is a massive airport.
It is.
So,
yeah.
There must be so many areas where they need to, separate the airside area from the landside area. So on the perimeter, for example. So yeah, it must be very, very difficult to stop people.
Indeed.
Absolutely terrible. Right, next story then is on the HoustonChronicle.com, and the headline says, "What will airports look like in 30 years?" And it says that airports could evolve into small cities with office complexes, hotels and shopping centres that entice travellers to stick around and spend more money.
Haven't they basically just described Heathrow there? Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But, turning airports into these mini economic zones will present an opportunity for private investment and for public-private partnerships, panellists said Wednesday during an Urban Land Institute luncheon discussing the trends and opportunities for airport real estate. Most airports you want to get in and out of because they're not necessarily the experience that you want to dwell in, says Benjamin Richter, founder and CEO of Bradford Airport Logistics. The goal is to create an airport experience where you actually go to this centre because it's the most effective place to do business. You want to dwell there. The cost to do that could be enormous, though. Simply upgrading US infrastructure to accommodate the next 30 to 50 years of air traffic could require more than $150 billion, said Andrew Wright, who's the managing partner and founder of Related Infrastructure. Much of that will be private capital. He says that, and the other panelists encouraged audience members to begin envisioning 30-year plans, but they also discussed more current trends, like how airports are moving from quick service restaurants to chef-inspired foods and adjusting to disruptions in the industry. Goes on a little bit, but basically what they're saying is that they're trying to look for more commercial opportunities in these airports for people to do business in. I think we've got enough shopping, haven't we?
I think so.
But I don't know. I think it's bad enough as it is at the moment. I can't imagine.
I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who finds that weave that you now have to do through duty free the most infuriating thing in life. I mean, it's just
yes.
Don't get me wrong, I love browsing the duty free. I mean, I love doing exactly that, but I get rather annoyed that I have to decide which, that I have to be made to walk through all of duty free just to get to the bit that I want to.
Yeah, it's like a trip to IKEA, isn't it? You can't, they force you up and down the aisles and there's no escape.
No.
There should be a little kind of secret shortcut through duty free.
Yeah, I don't know. As I say, if as long as I've got plenty of time in the airport, I actually enjoy having a browse through duty free and dreaming about all the things that I'm not going to purchase. But it's sort of rather infuriating for me personally. But I mean, what else can they put in the airport that isn't already there? In regard to airport lounges, you've already got several conference rooms in most terminals, haven't you, where people can have meetings and stuff. You've certainly got loads of hotels with shuttle buses that are laid on to take you straight to the terminal that are all dotted around the outside. So you've already got shopping in there. You've already got your WH Smiths. You've already got your Dixons and all that kind of thing. I mean, what else does the high street need? Several outlets for you to eat. I mean, what have I missed? What is
everything
missing?
That's in the airport is always far more expensive than you would get on the regular high street, including all the electronics places. Because you've left your headphones behind, so you want to buy a new pair or something. So you're always paying the premium price.
Yeah, I've never really understood this idea of attracting people into airports to do their shopping. It's unless you're going to really, give some cracking bargains.
But then it's only duty free, isn't it? So it's only really if you're sort of leaving and then coming back, in which case you're probably better off buying what you want from the other end. Do you know what I mean?
I tell you, I've never found something in the airport that I couldn't buy cheaper on Amazon or
True.
something like that.
Yeah, true.
Often at Christmas when I'm coming through, I think I must just get some perfume or something for the wife, and I have a look, and it's significantly more expensive in airports.
Actually, I've found, again, personal experience here, actually, I've quite often found that the best deals on duty-free are actually available on the plane. Certainly if you're after perfumes and things like that. I've actually quite often found, and I'm sorry to say it, but actually Ryanair is one of the few places where I've actually found what I call top brand high street, high street scents, if you like. So there's an aftershave that I use in particular that was available on Ryanair. It was significantly cheaper than if I went to Boots here in Bungay to buy it. So, as I say, I think there are deals to be had in the air, perhaps more than on the ground.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what I came across recently that I'd quite like to see more of at airports.
Careful, family show,
as I
Pip.
Probably mentioned before. No. This is nothing dirty.
Okay.
Wow. I have a priority pass,
yes,
which is a lounge access pass, which I don't leave home without it. It's worth its weight in gold, and I use it all the time. And a few months ago, passing through JFK, I was perusing to see which lounges were available, and they had, I forget exactly what it's called, they had private suites available.
Right.
Suites is quite a grand term. What it was is a private room with a sofa bed, a bed, a TV, a little sort of mini fridge with some drinks in it, internet access. And I thought that was fantastic. It's only a sort of a size of a small bathroom, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I've not seen that anywhere else before, and I thought that was quite funky.
They've started.
That would make my journey through an airport much more enjoyable.
We ran a story, I think, a few weeks back, Nev,
didn't
we?
I
think where they had these like pods, didn't they? That they'd sort of they were like glorified. They were slightly upgraded phone boxes essentially, but you had sort of screens, and I could quite happily sort of book myself in one of those.
The one that I used was slightly more than a pod. It was a small room, and you could pull out the bed and
just sort of stretch out if you wanted to for a bit.
It was lovely because the lounges are great, but they sort of become a bit less exclusive than they used to be. They tend to be pretty packed these days.
Yes, you've got
and sometimes, especially at Gatwick and Heathrow, or Gatwick particularly, you can't even get into the lounges half the time.
Really?
Because they just accept walk-in sort of trade
bookings and stuff. Yeah. Indeed.
So that was quite funky.
I mean, I must admit, I have done that before now, where I've had an unexpectedly long delay, and I've actually paid me 26 quid or whatever to go into the lounge and just because there's a few nibbles and you've got sort of drinks available to you as part of that fee and all that kind of thing. But it does essentially sort of spoil it, I guess, for people like yourself, because it is being used by us normals. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to be a snob, but I hate mixing with you peasants.
No, that's fine. I expect nothing less. Nev obviously deserves his status. There's no two ways about that.
Well, Nev goes into the real lounges.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but normal plebs like me,
even I'm not allowed into the Nev lounges.
No, indeed. I don't think.
Yes, I'll have put a restriction on that.
Yes.
But, have you noticed there's in T5 Pip at Heathrow now? There's a paid-for lounge, which is
I've used it many times. It's the Aspire Lounge, is it called?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite small, and again, that one can get very busy, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I thought somebody told me recently that they're opening another one in T5 as well.
Ooh.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure where they'd put it.
No.
Well, no, they've run out of space as it is.
Yeah, I mean, that Aspire Lounge is kind of sort of shoved into a corner.
It's just tacked on to the end.
It is.
Yeah,
it's quite good. But I've also been into the BA Lounge there a couple of times, and that can get blooming busy as well.
Yeah,
It's not always a great experience. But
No, indeed. Well, the next story, it's on the Sun again. For Matt.
Yes, lucky me. Hey, quality journalism awaits. Brace yourselves, everyone. So the headline is Auf Wiedersehen Jet.
I love this, by the way.
Okay, EasyJet.
We should do more of these stories.
Okay, EasyJet gives Germany a merciless ribbing after World Cup champions crash out in the group stage. EasyJet has mocked, which is probably a very dangerous thing to do, Germany, after they were dumped out of the World Cup at the group stage for the first time since 1938. In a tongue-in-cheek advert promoting flights to Berlin, the airline joked, "The only way you'll see Germany this summer." Ooh. Oh, that's quite harsh. Sport headlines are good this morning, but the madmen have gone one better for EasyJet. So, and this picture here, in fact, actually, I will just pop it up while we're talking about this. It literally says in this newspaper advert, the only way to still see Germany this summer is flights from $29.99 to Berlin, which is charming. So England's old foes needed to win in their final match yesterday, but lost to South Korea to finish bottom of their group. Germany, the reigning champions, have progressed past the group stage of the World Cup 16 times in a row before yesterday's humiliating 2-0 defeat to South Korea. The astonishing result sparked jubilation among Three Lions supporters after Germany broke English hearts at Mexico's 1970, Mexico 1970, Italia 1990, Euro 1996, and of course in South Africa in 2010. Do you know the thing that amazes me most about this story, Nev, is the fact that Carlos has included a football-related story. This is the thing that has astounded me more than anything else.
Yeah, this is not a sport he recognises.
No, it's not. He doesn't recognise sport. It doesn't matter which one it is. It's just like, unless it's sort of naked table tennis, he's not interested. That's, Anyway, sorry. Did I share too much with the group?
In case any of our international listeners don't quite get the nuances here, this is Germany being humiliated.
Yes.
Embarrassed, thrashed
right. I think they got it,
none
Pip.
less than South Korea, who are not one of the world's major footballing powers, it has to be said.
No, that's true.
Knocked out of the World Cup. And for myself, as well as millions of other decent, upstanding British folks, we are, of course, absolutely thrilled and delighted to see such humiliation heaped on our old adversary, the Germans.
I can think of a couple of very regular listeners to the show who
I would like
Nico
to and Fabian. And
I'd like to apologise.
All I've got to say to you is,
oh no, stop it! Bad Pip, honestly.
I must say, in a way, I am slightly miffed by Germany going out, because I'm going to miss now our tradition of being knocked out in the semi-final on penalties.
On penalties, absolutely.
It's what we look forward to every 4 years.
Yeah, and a small part of me is actually thinking, because actually we do have a footballer, Harry Kane, who seems to be, certainly at the moment, really rather good at penalties, and you're just sort of thinking. Anyway, if we're talking about football, I'm going to get abuse.
Well, let me add one final thing to this story. I was flying while this game was on, at least in the second half. And we always have the guard frequency, 1215, on our second comm box, which is like the emergency frequency.
Okay.
You're not meant to chat on it.
Right.
But when the World Cup's on, it just becomes like the live reporting station. So there were all the Germans coming on. Does anyone know the score in the football?
Right, okay.
And there were about 400 BAs and English Airlines, EasyJets, all cramming in on frequency, going 2-0, 2-0. And the Germans didn't believe it. They were saying, 9-9, of course not.
Making it up, yes. Absolutely. Yes.
That's it, Nico, in the chat room. You're on guard.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
The Guards Police always seems to have a German accent.
Right. And on behalf of the Plain Talking UK podcast, I'd like to apologise for any people who were offended by the atrocious accents that Pip has been demonstrating.
You are on guard!
Stop it. Move on.
God bless him.
Somebody, it's your story next, please.
Me?
And not in a German accent, please.
Oh, sorry, I was too busy taking the mick out of the Germans.
Yeah, stop it.
Set this one up.
Oh, dear.
Is it another World Cup story?
I'm really sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry. Oh, dear. Thanks, Pip.
South Korea.
You realise any emails that we get now, I'm going to start sending to you. You realise that, don't you?
Yeah,
They're all going to be forwarded on.
I shouldn't laugh, because come Tuesday we're going to be knocked out of the World
Good
Cup.
point. Yes, good point. Well made. Yes.
Yes.
Our fun will be very much had at our expense.
Anyhow, let's move on.
Yeah.
without making any more reference to Germany being humiliated by.
Right. What was the score again, Pip? 2-0. Right.
2-0. 2-0. I think
Okay,
it was.
yeah. Sorry, I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll double check later on just to confirm it was.
Oh dear.
So this is from flightglobal.com, and there's another Airbus story. I think Qatar Farnborough lineup features A350-1000 and a Boeing 747-8F, which is the freighter.
Yeah.
Qatar Airways is intending to have a strong presence at next month's Farnborough Air Show 2-0. With a 5-jet lineup including the A350-1000, a Boeing 747-8 freighter. The Middle Eastern carrier states that it will also be displaying a Boeing 777 plus a 737 MAX of its new affiliate Air Italy, I've never heard of them, as well as a Gulfstream G500 of Qatar Executive. Qatar Airways took delivery of its first A350-1000 in February, and Air Italy, in which Qatar holds a 49% share, also recently acquired its first 737 MAX 8. Have you heard of Air Italy, Nev?
I've seen the logo on a plane somewhere, and I remember Jenny talking about it as well a little while ago. Yes.
Anyway, the G500, that's a Gulfstream, by the way, a very lovely bizjet. The G500 will join the Qatar executive fleet later this year, says the airline. G500, I wonder if that's a misprint and they mean a G650.
Yeah.
G500 is quite an old model. People might not realise Qatar Airways has its own private jet fleet for first class.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you see them see them around quite a lot at Farnborough, places like that. They've got to have some very nice aircraft. Qatar Airways will show off its Q Suite business class cabin on the A350 and 777. It says its Farnborough presence will be the largest ever for a UK show, which begins on 16th of July, as we well know, because
we're all going to be there. Yes, hopefully anyway. Yeah.
And that's all she wrote on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun, I think. Actually, it's it's not far away now, is it? Of course, we're only a few weeks away from it.
3 weeks, 3 weekends away. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's
hard to believe it was 2 years ago that we all got together, and actually, I don't think the three of us had met each other before.
No, absolutely not. I think I'd met you before that, Pip. I think you and our paths had crossed.
Prior to that. I think we met up for a beer in Norwich.
In Norwich, that's right.
Then,
That's right. No, I think it was before. Yeah, I think that was before. And then, as I say, me and Nev actually met for the very first time there, and then had to do the biggest outside broadcast that I think any podcast has ever done ever. Basically not knowing each other, and we still get on, so that's a good sign, isn't it?
Is there going to be any live broadcast either from you guys or anyone else this coming?
I think we've actually decided that we're going to make it more of a community thing. So we will do a show from there at some point, but we've decided not to do the panel thing like we did last time because
it took it out of us so much.
Yeah,
we never quite recovered.
We sort of made the executive decision between myself and Nev that really actually don't get me wrong, it was an amazing experience, but it was so good I don't think we'd ever top it, and B, people don't really realise how much work Nev mainly, but me as well, had to put in to be able
a tremendous
to pull that off. So we're going to try and make it a little bit more low key, but it's going to be more about the beer and the socialising this time. Especially as it'll be. There's going to be some people who are going to be there who won't be around in the UK for a little while afterwards. So it's going to be more about the beer, I think, this time.
Yeah, very
excellent.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to just finish then on a good news story on the Inc.com. And the headline says, a teenager offered extraordinary help to a disabled passenger on Alaska Airlines, and their stunning story went viral.
Oh, wow.
Imagine your reaction. You're flying commercial and you're asked suddenly to help a disabled stranger. Basically stand by their side for the rest of your cross-country journey.
Wow.
It's wonderful to imagine you might respond kindly and generously. Well, we'd all like to think so.
Yes.
But we fly, and we all know people enduring economy class often aren't exactly primed to be their best selves, so to speak. It goes for passengers and flight crew alike. So perhaps that's why when we hear stories of extreme kindness in economy class, they often go viral, especially when there are photos and social media involved. So this case in point is what happened recently on an Alaska Airlines flight from Boston to Portland, Oregon. Clara Daly, 15, was travelling home to California via Portland with her mother. When flight attendants asked over the PA if anybody on the flight knew sign language and could help communicate with a disabled passenger, she volunteered. She spent a year learning ASL, mainly because she has dyslexia, and it's fairly easy for her to study in school compared to compared other languages. Still compared other languages. The passenger in need, Tim Cook, who's 64, is both deaf and blind. He'd been visiting his sister in Boston and was returning home alone to Gresham in Oregon. He can speak clearly, but he wasn't able to understand anything that flight attendants and other passengers were saying to him. A woman who was sitting in the same row described what happened in a now viral Facebook post, focusing first on how another man and then the flight attendants tried to help Cook and how difficult that was, and then how Daly got involved. For the rest of the flight, she attended to Tim and made sure his needs were met. It was fascinating to watch as she signed one letter at a time into his hand. He was able to read her signing, and they carried on into an animated conversation. It was a beautiful reminder in this time of too much awfulness that there are still good people who are willing to look out for each other. Well, that's nice, isn't it? And
it is a really nice,
really nice bit of news to end that.
It is a lovely piece of news. I mean, the only thing that worries me a little bit with this story is I'm just a bit concerned that he was travelling alone. I mean, I don't know quite how one would have dealt with these situations and things. In that situation, how do you explain to somebody if with a need like that exactly the requirements? I'm being very boring and talking about the safety elements of flying on an aeroplane here. I mean, it's just if this passenger hadn't have been on board, one could argue that there was an issue there, perhaps. I'm spoiling an otherwise nice story. I mean, she was here, but to help. But I mean, what are the rules when it comes to sort of people with disabilities and them being aware of? I mean, what do any special provisions have to be arranged in advance for something like this?
Sorry, I missed the first part of the story because Al sent me the most obscene text message I've ever seen in my life.
Right, okay.
So that distracted me somewhat.
Okay.
So what was that? What was the disability in question?
Well, he's both deaf and blind, and this particular he was actually on the aeroplane and travelling alone.
Yeah, you can't. Well, obviously you can't discriminate against anyone in any fashion at all. The only rule or regulation that immediately pops to mind is regarding able-bodied passengers and where you can seat them on the aircraft. So obviously he wouldn't be allowed to sit
over the
in
wings
an emergency exit row.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't.
I'd say in this particular case,
do.
obviously, I'm spoiling a good feel story, and I'm really sorry for that. It's just the curiosity in me is literally sort of inquiring as to what it's say this particular individual obviously did have help because the heartfelt story of this girl helping out, etc. But it just suddenly occurred to me, it just strikes me as very unusual that the guy was travelling on his own. But anyway, I'm sure there was a good reason. Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. It's. I just sort of intrigued to know how one would then convey the safety announcements and that kind of thing if this girl hadn't have been on board.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I mean.
Yeah. Sorry, I've opened a can of worms here.
Best. Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Yeah, sorry. We'll pretend I didn't say anything. Answers on a postcard, please. Complaints to podcast@planetalkinguk.com if I've upset
anyone.
Funnily
enough, this sort of general area of how you handle disabilities it seems to have been becoming a bigger story recently. I've seen quite a few things this year in the press about disgruntled people and the way they've been handled. Mostly people with don't know how to say it, more physical disabilities, people in wheelchairs and whatnot, and how they're handled. how they're manoeuvred onto the aircraft and whatnot. And I think the airlines could improve a lot. There's a lot of work that they could do.
Actually, Steph has raised a very good point. Actually, she's saying it's probably do they have the information cards in Braille? And probably the short answer is yes. That's probably how they do That's exactly how they would do it. I'm actually in hindsight thinking about it. I know.
Gosh, do you know what? I'm not sure that airlines do have cards in Braille. We certainly don't.
No. Okay. Well, there we are. Perhaps that's something that we should research. But anyway, as I say, nevertheless, a glorious, lovely story, and it's so nice to know that there is still good people out there, as we were saying earlier on. So, can you dig me out of this hole, please, Nev? That would be great.
Yes. Well, luckily that's the end of the commercial news segment for this week. Now, up next, it was very, very strange. Actually, I had this panic phone call from Carlos on, I think it was Friday or Saturday of last week. In fact, it was Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he had, without letting any of us know, of course, had sent a letter, email into the Air Malta HQ at Lucca Airport there, because obviously he was going to be going through there, and he just said, "Oh, any chance I could interview, somebody high up in the company?" And sure enough, they came back to him on the Saturday and said, "Oh yeah, would you like to pop in at 11:30 on Monday? You can talk to the chairman and the chief commercial officer if you like." So at this point, he now sends me lots and lots of WhatsApps. "Oh, I don't know what to ask. What should I do?" Anyway, so. In fact, it went rather well, as it turned out.
It did.
So he had the opportunity to meet Air Malta's chairman, who's Dr. Charles Mangion, I think it's pronounced, and Chief Commercial Officer Paul Sies at the Sky Parks Business Centre. And it's a very big thank you to Alison and everyone at Air Malta for making Carlos feel very welcome, almost at home, I would think, and actually setting it all up for us. So he's done a great interview here, some really interesting information that comes over. So let's have a listen.
So I've been very lucky indeed to come to the Sky Parks Centre, and I've been lucky enough to be invited over to Air Malta's head office here. And with me is Paul Sies. He's the Chief Commercial Officer at Air Malta. So Paul, welcome onto the show.
Thank you. Nice to be there.
Thank you. Thanks for giving up your time in the day to speak to us on the show. I'm sure the listeners will love to hear from you.
Well, it was a choice between lunch or speaking with you, and I prefer the latter.
So Paul, starting off then, tell us a bit about the airline's history, Air Malta, and its beginnings.
Well, of course, it has a long history. It's 45 years now. Started as actually an airline that was there to transport tourists to Malta. Had many years of that status. Yes, developing scheduled services, but a lot of the services they did were charters. I think in the early 2000s, it started more and more to develop into a scheduled service airline to also service other parts of the community. Business people start connecting, starting code-sharing with other airlines. Had a spot of troubles in the latter part of 2008 to 2010, where reorganization was needed, and they looked how they could give that hands and feet. Proved to be very difficult because, of course, Air Malta had a track record of being Air Malta, and when you want people to change, that's a challenge in most airlines, but especially in Air Malta. At one stage, the airport or the government decided to sell off Air Malta, and the talks with Alitalia went on for quite a long time, nearly 2 years, till in the early part of last year, 2017, it became apparent that Alitalia didn't have a bright future, and putting Air Malta into that situation would not be beneficial for the island, and the government chose not to do so. At that stage, we built a complete new business plan and started working on a complete turnaround of the airline based on growth. Until that time, we were basically consolidating the airline and redelivering aircraft, but not replacing them. Until last year, we had a change in the representative, the shareholder, Minister Mitzi, who took care of Air Malta and supported the views of the management. to really grow the airline. And that was a complete new era of the airline, of where we went from consolidation to rapid growth. And we're in the middle of that growth spurt at the moment. Some good signs. The good signs are indeed that we are really growing the business. We grew the business in May, for instance, 41%, which is an impressive growth. We added 2 new aircraft this year, which we can talk about later on. But with that growth, there's also challenges. Do we have enough pilots? Do we have all the resources we want? Are all the resources there in time? And how do we act in the case of a disruption? Because in the past we would have a fleet of 8 aircraft, which were doing about 7 hours a day. So a lot of recovery time. Nowadays we fly the aircraft 14 hours a day, so a very tight schedule. And we're in the middle of that learning curve, which is a very interesting one.
So on that subject, actually, Paul, of pilots, how easy is it to get pilots? Because everyone knows in the industry at the moment the big stories are pilot shortage. Is that a problem for Air Malta?
It is. It isn't. We are recruiting pilots at the moment. We're still very careful that when we commit to new resources like aircraft and pilots, that we don't tie ourselves down for a too long time. Malta is very specific. The Maltese citizen will be happy to live abroad and work abroad, but will always want to come back to Malta at one stage. And this is what we found when we said, well, we have a number of openings in Air Malta, that a lot of the pilots that left us in the past to go for a foreign adventure want to come back and be part of Air Malta again. So we do find it quite easy to find pilots and to retain them. We're also looking at getting in temporary pilots to bridge us through the summer and to help us with the growth of the airline. Malta seems to be very attractive for people to live and to work. So also there we see quite encouraging results.
Excellent. How easy is it to run the airline? Talking about crews and the aircraft, is it quite a sort of a feat to run the airline?
It's complicated, and especially when you're growing. When you have a stable fleet and a stable resources of your crews, it's quite easy because it's just maintenance. And currently we are phasing in new aircraft, and phasing in a new aircraft doesn't always come on the day and the age or the time you want it. So you plan an aircraft to come in May, and then Airbus tells you, well, sorry, but we've got an issue with the LEAP engines, or we've got a production delay, so it's going to be a month later. If you know that well in advance, you can wet lease an aircraft and bridge that gap. Currently, there is no wet lease capacity out there, or virtually no wet lease capacity out there. So we've had a very challenging month whereby we had to cancel a number of flights due to the fact that we didn't have enough resources. Now all the aircraft are in place. We're also filling the backlog of recruits and pilots. We're having pilots being trained as we speak in the simulator center just over the road. So hopefully that all falls into place. But you have a planning whereby you think we've all got it covered, and then something happens and you don't have it covered, and then you come into a very complicated situation.
So you do your own training at the airport here. You've got, as you said, a simulator here, so you can do your own.
Yep. Recently,
a lot of airlines have to kind of outsource their training.
Well, we have our own training pilots and our own training captains. There's a simulator just opened up on the other side of the road here. It's not ours, but we are committed to it because it's, of course, very easy to just have people going on the cross of the street and doing their training there. Before we had to go to Frankfurt or to London or to Rome, which again is not an issue, but it means that the pilot is 2-3 days out of the office for one training session. Nowadays we just have 1 day and they can go to the training just in Malta.
Oh, that's brilliant. It must work very well for a cost saving for the airline.
Fantastic for the cost saving. Maybe less fantastic for the pilots who liked to have their few days in Frankfurt, Rome or London.
So it's great to see, obviously, new routes opening this year, one of them being Southend, which is where me and my wife flew from on Saturday.
How was the experience?
It was a fantastic experience. I have to say, the Southend it's the first time I've flown from Southend. Seamless experience, very quick, and also have to say that the aircraft was on time. Left a little bit late, but I think that was mainly down to a servicing issue with the grain facilities.
Yeah.
But again, fantastic crew, spotlessly clean aircraft.
Good to hear.
And great service from the crew, very, very good indeed. But on that note of kind of new routes, so obviously you've got other routes opened in the last few months as well. Obviously, I live on the east coast of the UK. Air Malta used to fly from Norwich.
Yep.
Would that be back on the cards again, possibly at some point in the future?
We're talking to all the regional airports in the UK. We used to have a very strong position in the regional airports. Of course, the growth of low-cost airlines, and I think the fact that Air Malta didn't really follow that trend for a number of years made their position quite difficult in the UK. And we had to retreat back to London Heathrow and London Gatwick, which even a few years ago was quite challenging. Now we have changed our pricing, revenue management strategy and distribution. We find it much easier to compete with the low-cost airlines. And actually, I think we have a very much a hybrid model between a legacy airline and a low-cost airline, especially when people want to find a cheap seat. That can be done with our Go Light fares. You just travel with hand luggage, a very basic service on board, and you pay for what you want. We've been able to attract a much bigger audience. So now we're talking to the regional airports again to re-entry into the regional market. We are quite demanding on the airports because we believe that when you develop something, it's not just down to the airline, because it's also the airport that benefits. And there should be, it should be a partnership. Specific airports are quite good in partnerships, and some are less good in partnerships. And it will all be down to, does that partnership develop? And if it does, then you'll see us coming to the UK into the regional airports. Southend was a very good example of that. A very active management who are very keen to get new operations on the line. Very creative in the way we put it into the market and how we look at developing destinations, where we've got 3 destinations out of Southend: Sardinia, Cagliari, Sicily, Catania, and then Malta, of course, which have been marketed quite heavily by the airport in the UK, which is a very competitive market in media, but they've done a really excellent job, and the flights are really picked up as they should. So if we can get that bridged with other airports, we will be back.
I think for me as a passenger, Paul, when I booked the flights to the Malta for this holiday I'm on now, comparing the cost which I paid for my flight with Air Malta, which included the 23 kilos suitcase and 10 kilo hand luggage, comparing the prices which I could have paid with, say, EasyJet or Ryanair, Air Malta came in nearly half the cost of price, and that's before you add on with the other 2 airlines the baggage and all the other fees. So I think, in my view, the prices with Air Malta are incredibly attractive for someone like me flying from Southend.
Well, that was the whole intention. That's why we developed Go Light. In the past, we had real problems competing with the low-cost airlines. By developing the Go Light product, we could, at least in all the meta search engines and the online travel agencies and the travel agency community and online, make sure that our pricing is in line with the low-cost airlines, or sometimes even below. Due to the fact that we have several airports, for instance in London, we can also create a sort of positioning per airport. Heathrow, of course, is a higher positioned airport. The natural inclination to fly from Heathrow is quite high for the UK-based people, but also for the Maltese. But the prices will be higher. Gatwick is slightly more a bigger market, so we need to be more competitive. Southend is a new market, and we can really say, well, we can do something really special for the consumer there. And our view is that when you have to market a new route from a new airport, because Southend is quite a new airport for a lot of people, you need to get them to use it, and then they will start understanding the value of it. Southend is a little pearl, I think, waited to be explored. Well, we jumped on it together with Southend Airport, who really helped us to do that. And now Ryanair's coming in too, which is a very good sign. It means that more and more people will be using the airport. And our view is that in a number of years, the slots at Southend Airport will be just as difficult to get as the slots at Gatwick and Stansted.
So Air Malta operates an all Airbus fleet. In the past, they have used Boeing products. So do you think Air Malta will ever consider going forward possibly using other manufacturers, say Boeing or Bombardier or any other manufacturer, to add to the fleet, or will it stay an Airbus fleet?
Difficult to say. I believe that if our growth strategy as we've set it really materializes, which we don't see a reason why not, but let's be careful in this industry because it's a very difficult industry. We do believe that when we have come above the 15 aircraft barrier, it could be worthwhile flying a different fleet next to the Airbus fleet. We fly quite a lot of sectors very close by, the Sicilies, the Sardinias, the Tunises, maybe in the future again Libya if that opens up. But there's other North African routes which would be nice to do in a higher frequency. With an Airbus, you're down to a low frequency because the gauge is quite high. If we can do that in a higher frequency, that could be worthwhile. However, I think economically that would be ideal for a turboprop product. I think consumer-wise, our consumers would be very, very difficult to persuade to fly a turboprop. So then you would be looking at a smaller jet, which could complement the fleet. But in the next years to come, I think we will be very loyal to Airbus and develop where we are. We just added our first Neo. There's more to follow in the next years because we're renewing the fleet. And that's the first focus. But then when grown up to 15, 18 aircraft, it could well be that we look at a secondary fleet.
Excellent. So who does all the maintenance for your Airbus fleet?
Well, the line maintenance we do ourselves. We've got a line maintenance unit here. Heavy maintenance is outsourced to whoever gets the contract. We look at the best facilities, best timing, of course, best price. So the heavy checks are done there, but all the other maintenance is done by our own people here in Malta.
And they are employed by Air Malta?
They're employed by Air Malta. We've got our own hangar, but we also do third-party maintenance there.
Excellent. So with the introduction of the new the 320 Neo to Air Malta, so are there any plans to phase out and retire some of the older 320s in the fleet?
Indeed. We've got, over the next 5 years, I think, nearly the whole old fleet expires. I don't think we'll be extending a lot of them. We'll be seeing it replacing them. We see the benefits of the Neo at the moment. The fuel burn is fantastic. I think the customer experience is really, really good, and a step up from where we are. We want to also come to a consistency on cabin in the future, so that we've had a few different kinds of aircraft coming into the fleet due to the fact that we had no choice at that stage, and we would like to come to one type of fleet with one type of cabin, which will be replacing the older aircraft into a new fleet over the coming years.
Excellent. And with that training, obviously with the 320 Neo being relatively similar to the Air 320 you use now, I take it the training is just simply a conversion?
It's a very simple conversion. It's a course of half an hour online, and then it's a briefing with the training captain before the flight, and you're ready to go on the Neo.
Brilliant. So how important then are the code share agreements you've got with your partner airlines?
Very important. One of the reasons why I think Malta is maybe still one of the few countries in Europe that has a national airline is because we don't see the airline really as an airline. We live on a small island. The only way to get around in the world is by flying. Maltese and going out tend to fly a lot, but also people coming here on a holiday have to fly. with a 10 aircraft fleet, we can serve a maximum amount of say, about 30, 35, maybe 40 destinations throughout Europe, but we can't fly beyond because we don't have the resources to do that. Having a long-haul fleet for a small airline like this would be quite challenging. Not impossible, but in the current circumstances, quite challenging. So we opted to work together with other airlines, creating networks that reach beyond our network to get new people into Malta, but also to have more destinations within our reach for people living in Malta. So at the moment, it's about 14-15% of our revenue is codeshare revenue, which is a significant amount. It's more than even cargo contributes to us, so we would not be able to do without our codeshare partners.
Fantastic. So with the island of Malta becoming more popular and the go-to place in the Mediterranean, what are the future plans or goals for the airline?
Well, our government has been quite clear, and they adopted the plans we wrote as management for the airline. Is we're very much looking at North Africa to venture more and more into that. We're ready to Tunis. We're ready to Tel Aviv. We're very much looking at going also into other North African countries in the future. We used to have a big base in Libya until, of course, the situation in Libya deteriorated, but keen to get back in there. We'll also look at sub-Saharan Africa because we believe that between Europe and sub-Saharan Africa there can be a much better connection, and Malta geographically, of course, fantastically positioned to do so. Another area we're looking at venturing out is other Mediterranean islands. Malta has been able to grow its tourism significantly and its economic position significantly due to the fantastic connections we have. And that's not only Air Malta, but it's also our colleague airlines flying in and out of Malta, which create a fantastic network. And we believe that other islands in the Mediterranean who don't have a national carrier could benefit by having a connection in the form of what Air Malta is doing for Malta, Air Malta could do for other islands. So we also believe that there is a future for Air Malta serving other islands, and the way we're looking at developing is making Air Malta from the airline of the airline of the Maltese islands to becoming the airline of the Mediterranean islands.
And I think that will probably work very well, and that will probably happen, I think, Paul, with the way the airline, I think, is coming, really coming alive now. I think, the future looks very bright for Air Malta.
We believe so. We are very realistic that although the future looks bright, we still have challenges. We work on a daily basis on those challenges with a lot of pleasure. We believe that we will overcome those challenges and be able to serve these markets in a very good way. Standardization of the fleet, standardization of the product are, I think, key for that. We're also very soon implementing a new catering product on board, much more flexible, much more high quality. So we believe that we're putting the building blocks in place to really come into the future.
So Paul, before we wrap up, just tell us a bit about yourself. Where were your beginnings?
Interesting one. Well, actually, my true beginnings were sitting behind a radio mic because I was a DJ when I was young. Yeah, but rolled into aviation by coincidence and got stuck there 30 years ago. In aviation now for 30 years. Ran a number of regional airlines in the past, then worked for the Virgin Group for a number of years, and then ventured for a few years into the resort business in the Center Parcs Group, which was absolutely a great experience, but I missed aviation, and then worked the last 14 years as a consultant in various forms, setting up airlines in the Middle East, North Africa, in Africa, reorganizing airlines all around Europe too. Arriving in Air Malta end of 2016, early 2017. initially for a few months to help them restart after the Alitalia operation, and got stuck because it's a very contagious place where you want to be, in a great challenge, and looking forward to be here for the next years.
Oh, brilliant. And I'm guessing you enjoy your job very much.
I enjoy my job very much. We enjoy the island very much. We enjoy the people very much. And most important, my family loves Malta. We just had a good weekend with a lot of hours of sun and a lot of swimming, which is a totally different lifestyle from what we have when we're back in Europe. So very much encouraging.
So, Paul, just to wrap up then, it's a question that we always ask all the pilots and everyone we interview on the show. And it's kind of a put you on the spot question, but given the chance to fly or sit, in the flight deck, any aircraft, either flying retired, commercial, military, GA, and you were given that chance to go out there now and have a trip or a flight on that aircraft, what would that aircraft be?
Twofold. I think the archetype workhorse is still the 737. Fantastic aircraft to fly, and it's still flying. I've never flew an Airbus. A few weeks ago, I did a course on the simulator here. Impressive aircraft or impressive piece of machinery, but it's not flying. I think maybe I'm insulting people now. My dream would still be to fly a 777, because I think that's still one of the best built aircraft in the world.
Perhaps you could chat to one of the Emirates guys when they fly in with the 777s here.
Fantastic. Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Well, Paul, on behalf of the Plane Talking UK podcast, I really want to thank you for your time and obviously, inviting us here today to speak with you. And we wish you all the best for the airline in the future. Thank
you very much. It was a real pleasure talking to you, and hopefully the listeners had some information about Air Malta, but keep tuned, because there's more to look at.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that was good, wasn't it?
That was, wasn't it? He's done us proud there, hasn't he? Bless him. Even when he's on holiday, look, he's busy looking after the show. I mean, honestly, didn't he do well?
Yeah, excellent, actually. And I think the thing with those sort of interviews, especially when you're talking to someone like that who just gives so much information, it was really, really informative. And really interesting to hear about the history of the airline.
It's great to hear somebody who talks with passion as well. Do you know what I mean? He clearly loves what he does for a living, doesn't he? There's no two ways about it. Lots of people are asking in the chat room how very soon Carlos is going to relocate to Malta. I think if he had his way, I don't think he'd come home, to be fair. But because
has he got a return ticket?
I think that is the rumour, but easily changed, I fear. Never mind.
Brilliant. But no, really good job there, Carlos, and thanks for turning it around so quickly and sending it back. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's nice. As I say, even though he's on a holiday, at least he's been on the show. That's good. He'll be happy with that, I'm sure. Yes,
exactly. Right, well, now we're coming up to do a few military stories, some of you will be pleased to know. So are you ready for this, Pip?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I am. And are you ready?
Excellent.
Yeah, I was born ready. Don't worry about that.
Excellent. Well, off we go then. Well, starting off on the cityam.com website, it's talking about the RAF Centenary July flypast, which is going to be happening over central London. And the RAF showpiece celebrating its 100th anniversary has been announced as a once-in-a-lifetime centenary flypast over the city. The event on the 10th of July will see up to 100 aircraft take to the skies, with historic aircraft such as Spitfires alongside some of the RAF's newest additions, including the first opportunity for the public to see its next generation aircraft, which is the Lightning. And the RAF said that whilst all aircraft participation is subject to the weather, aircraft serviceability and operational commitments, it is expecting to have Juno, the new training helicopter, which replaced the Squirrel, the iconic Battle of Britain fighter, the Spitfire, and the Hurricane on display, to name but a few. Ahead of the flypast, there'll be a parade starting at 11:25 a.m. of 1,000 RAF personnel and another 300-line route marching up to Horse Guards Road and the Mall towards the Palace. The flypast formation is expected to pass over Buckingham Palace at 1 p.m. and members of the public will be able to take up viewing positions along the length of the Mall. And the huge display will feature a range of aircraft to mark different eras of the RAF's 100-year service history. And prior to this event, there'll also be an aircraft tour on the Horse Guards Parade between the 6th and 9th of July for the public to view an exhibition of aircraft spanning the RAF's history from World War I and World War II through to the present day. Air Chief Marshal, Chief of the Aircraft Staff, Sir Stephen Hillier, said this once-in-a-lifetime flypast will provide an iconic centrepiece for the RAF 100 celebrations. In our centenary year, we are commemorating those that have come before us, celebrating our current personnel, and ultimately inspiring a new generation to write the next chapters in the RAF story. So that's going to be an absolutely fascinating display of aircraft, but also some static displays going on there as well between the 6th and 9th of July. I might see if I can get down there actually and do a bit of filming.
Yeah,
perhaps.
do, please. That would be great.
The date in question then, if you're in the London area, is going to be in July, and it's July the 10th. That's the date to look out for.
Okay, yes, sounds good. I do love the Battle of Britain flypast. Any of them are fantastic. So we'll move on to the next story, and this is on the Wales Online. And I think Carlos has chosen this especially because somebody, aka me, sat down and watched Top Gun for the first time ever today, or a couple of days ago. And the headline is US Air Force Top Guns put on incredible low-flying display over the Welsh countryside, which is quite cool. So these incredible images, which I'll play for you in a moment, show American Top Gun fighter jets flying so low over Wales, hill walkers can see inside the cockpit, as you do. Swooping and dipping around the valleys near, Dolgaloo,
Dolgethley.
Thank you. The US Air Force. I know, show it off, isn't he? The US Air Force, USA.
We should have had Captain Al on, really, for the.
We should have done, absolutely, for the full phlegm version, as I like to refer to it. So the USAF, the F-15E Strike Eagle planes were photographed as they carried out breathtaking training exercises earlier this week, flying along the Mac Loop, a sparsely populated one-way route perfect for vital low-level flight training. The jets can be flown as low as 250 feet. Or 76 meters, if you prefer, from the ground. And actually, some of these photos are absolutely. In fact, what I'm going to do is, while I'm going to break with protocol here, and I'm going to pop the pictures up while I'm reading the story, because they are actually really quite stunning. As I say, literally taking photographs inside the cockpit there, which is just ridiculous. I mean, I'll tell you what, Nev, what you wouldn't give to be on that hillside with your camera. You get some amazing shots with these pictures.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they? And really fascinating to see how close up you can get. I know they've got quite long lenses as well, but actually they are not far away at all.
They really are.
That's a very popular site for a plane spotters, the Old Mark Loop. I can't think exactly where it is in Wales, but on the internet there's hundreds and hundreds of similar pictures.
So plane spotters can be seen in the background watching the impressive display. In some images, the planes are flying so low that any passing hill walkers would be able to look down into the cockpit. This is it's just brilliant. It's something you'd love to see, wouldn't it? Oh, look at that one with the jet wash just behind it, look. Oh, God, yeah. I think we need a holiday in Wales. Anyway, the RAF regularly use the loop, as do other NATO countries. Apparently, even the Red Arrows have been known to practice in the area, which it's just so cool, isn't it? Love that. There's a great little video here. I don't know if it will play while I'm trying to sort of do it. Come on, go.
There's
for it.
a slightly obvious not a mistake, an obvious contradiction with the video there.
Yeah, go on.
I'm sure you'll spot it in a second.
Okay. There we go. Sorry, he says apologising to everyone who's listening to on
the headline was US Top Guns, and that was video was clearly a Royal Air Force.
Oh, I see. Right. Oh dear.
Sorry, that's the geek in me.
No, quite right. Absolutely, and I'm sure Nev will support all the way. We're rather partial to correct aeroplanes associated with correct stories, are we not, sir?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. A very rare thing, sadly, these days. Anyway, lovely though that was. So we'll finish with our final military story. If I could hand that to you, please, Pip.
Thank you very much. This is quite a interesting one. I'm looking forward to this. This is again from flightglobal.com.
Yep.
It's the unmanned Sky Guardian to cross the Atlantic for the Royal International Air Tattoo debut. So the story says General Atomics Aeronautical Systems MQ-9B Sky Guardian. That rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Medium altitude, long endurance, remotely piloted air system, or RPAS, will make its first transatlantic journey early next month before appearing at the UK's Royal International Air Tattoo at RAF Efford, which many of us are going to.
Yeah.
The aircraft, which forms the basis of the UK Royal Air Force's future Protector RPAS, is scheduled to land at RAF Efford in Gloucestershire on the evening of 11th of July and is due to appear in the static display at the 13th to 15th of July event. Expected to last more than 20 hours, the non-stop sortie will commence from General Atomics Flight Test and Training Centre in Grand Forks, North Dakota. On 25th of June, the UK Civil Aviation Authority detailed a series of planned airspace restrictions that will be made in support of the Sky Guardian's arrival. These will be activated for the safety of the remotely piloted aircraft and other airspace users, the CAA said. Temporary danger areas will be activated by no time with potentially less than 24 hours notice, the CAA also said. Each danger area will be managed by an air traffic control unit. During flight testing, the Sky Guardian has demonstrated its ability to remain airborne for more than 48 hours. Gosh,
wow.
That is a long time.
That's incredible.
Oh, Carlos would love that.
Yeah. I'd say he'd happily. Well, as long as they offered a basic drink service, I think he'd be quite happy.
Yeah. The civilian aircraft, which is certified and registered through the US FAA, has been issued permission to operate within UK airspace. RAF operations with the last. Let me start that again. I can't talk tonight. RAF operations with at least 20 Protector RG-1s are due to commence during the 2020s with the type to be certificated for use in non-segregated airspace to replace the service's current armed Reapers. And breathe. So that's fun. That's going to be coming across to the air show, which I don't know if we've seen one of these at an air show before.
No,
I certainly haven't. So I'd be really keen to see that.
It's going to be fascinating.
I know certainly it's been causing not some headaches, but it's been causing some additional issues that they've had to look at from an air traffic control point of view.
Okay.
As I learned from our friend, who should remain nameless, our air traffic controller friend who is involved with the RIAT. I know he's been posting some stuff this week about their preparations for the arrival of this thing.
Yeah.
So that'd be good fun.
Interesting.
On a slightly wider issue, that the airspace restrictions that it mentions for the RIAT, I've been taking a look at these this last week. So I was half thinking about flying down to RIAT in my little PA-28. The air traffic restrictions and airspace closures are fairly extensive. It's a bit of a nightmare, actually. They're closing, well, not closing off, but they're restricting quite a large portion of airspace in the south of the UK, and to fly through it's a bit of a pain in the backside, to be honest. And I'm wondering if it's worth the hassle or not.
You'll be flying, of course. It will be worth the hassle.
But looking forward to seeing this, and I'm looking forward to being at RIA. I'll be there on the Saturday, incidentally.
Yeah.
I know a number of other people will be there. I hope I'm not speaking out of place here. I think Nick and Captain Jeff will also be there at some point that weekend.
Yeah, that I don't think you are speaking out of turn. I think that is their plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if they wanted to keep that as just a sort of a private day to themselves or what. I don't know.
Okay.
Al will certainly be there, and he will be accepting ice creams and burgers and other donations.
Of course, as only he knows how. Yeah, indeed, and I dare say, hopefully, we'll perhaps persuade you guys to do a little segment for us. While, unfortunately, for logistical reasons, myself and Carlos are unable to make it. I don't think you're able to make it either, are you, Nev?
No, I'm not allowed to pass out 2 weeks on the trot, so I'll be at Farnborough the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, but not at Riyadh.
Indeed, and those are my plans as well, is hopefully the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, turning up Thursday night, so yeah, it should be good. So yes, so we'll be leaving you and Al in charge of looking after our wonderful community while you're there. So.
Yeah, that's...
dangerous
thought.
thought.
Sensible decision. You can trust us.
Yes. Don't make me regret it, Pip. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good.
Whatever. Yeah, yeah. And that is, I'm afraid, where we have to start wrapping things up. Pip, thank you so very much for joining us at short notice to help us fill in Carlos. Obviously, now that he's otherwise occupied this evening.
Always a pleasure.
It has been brilliant. And in case people are living under a stone, perhaps you'd be good enough to let them know how they get hold of your marvellous podcast, sir.
Oh, yes. They can find it at planesafetypodcast.com or on iTunes and places like that.
Indeed, absolutely. So it's
www. I was hoping to record a show this week, but I just haven't found the time, I'm afraid.
Honestly, what you like. It's
it's
www.planesafetypodcast.com is where you will find Pip's fantastic show.
Thank you.
Nev, anything exciting planned for you next week?
No, I'm not particularly. I'm just going to carry on enjoying the weather. We'll have to do some work as well, of course.
Boring.
But just before we go, one thing to remind everybody of is the Plain Talking UK barbecue fly-in.
Yes, I'm glad somebody's reading the show notes.
which is going to be happening on the 18th of August. Now, some of you have already given us information about what you're doing, and if you would like to join us for that, it's going to be an awesome event. Hopefully. Obviously, very weather dependent in terms of the flying bit.
Yes.
But we'll be doing this at Seething Airfield, of which the ICAO code is Echo Golf Sierra Juliet. And I know that Al is planning to come down to my local GA airfield at Wickham Air Park and fly Mrs. Nev and I across the country to Seething. And I think, Pip, are you planning on taking your PA?
I certainly am. I'm really happy that I'm going to be there. I've negotiated with scheduling to have that day off.
Fantastic.
It's kind of early days, but maybe I can just take this opportunity to throw this out there for people. I am planning on flying across as well in my little PA-28.
Obviously weather dependent, yeah.
Very weather dependent, and not just weather, planes break and...
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
All that. But I do have a couple of spare seats, hopefully 3 spare seats if I can make the fuel and weight and balance and all that kind of stuff work. So I've already promised 1 seat to the lovely Barbara Parish, so she's going to be coming along. But if anyone else out there wants to accompany us, then send me an email to feedback@planesafetypodcast.com. You'll need to get yourself down to probably Cranfield Airport sometime on a Saturday morning. I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to stay overnight. I think I probably will.
Okay.
So bear that in mind, people.
Yeah.
If you want to come back on the Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So drop me an email, and we'll see what we can do. If there's loads of interest, then I don't know, just pick names
do a
out
ballot or something. Yeah,
but,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Drop me an email if you're interested.
Yeah, the accommodation is in this particular area is relatively limited. So if you are wanting to sort of join us and sort of stay overnight, perhaps if you give us an email, that's probably going to be the easiest thing, because obviously myself and Carlos live in this part of the world. So if you bung an email to podcast@planetalkinguk.com and you need some assistance in regard to finding some accommodation, we'll certainly do what we can to help you in regard to logistics from Seething back to wherever it is that you end up staying. But yes, so,
I'm sure there are plenty of B&Bs and whatnot in the local area.
Yeah, you'd think so. But yeah, though, if you need any help, obviously do podcast@planetalkinguk.com and we'll do what we can to assist. Yeah, so that is any other business, Nev? Have we missed anything?
No, I think we've got it all covered.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. So I just hope the weather plays nicely.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that day.
Yes.
It will. I'm giving you a Pip guarantee.
Way excellent writing, please, Pip. I need that in writing. So I've already been, myself and Mother have already been planning the menu. So at the moment, had a bit of an experiment at a barbecue I did last weekend, where I made my own pork and chorizo burgers, which were really rather fabulous, I have to say.
Yeah.
So there's going to basically everything that's going to be at the barbecue will be made by myself and Mama. So it's all going to be handmade. None of this bought from the supermarket rubbish. It's all going to be sort of proper handmade, so it's going to be really good fun.
Should people bring stuff with them, some kebabs or whatever to chuck on the barbie?
I would suggest what I would say to everyone who wants to come, as I say, we do need to know you're coming in advance. That's the only thing, because obviously it is an operating airport and Seething need to know in advance who they're expecting. So you need to get your request into podcast@planetalkinguk.com. We have had a couple of emails I noticed that have gone astray for some reason, so if you haven't had a response from anyone yet, then it's likely that your email has gone astray. We don't know why that's happening, but I know we've had a couple of emails this week, haven't we, Nev, where somebody sort of said they've tried to email us and it hasn't come through.
Yes.
So if you haven't had a response from us yet, then please do send the email again, just so that, because as I say, we have to have a guest list basically to give the airport. That also obviously helps us in regard to catering, and the only thing you need to bring with you, nothing from food point of view, but we will need you to bring whatever beverage it is that you would like to drink.
Beverages.
So,
okay. Someone in the chat room, a Mr. Carlos Stebbings.
Never heard of him.
He has raised a very good point. He says, "Will there be cake?"
I'm sure if I ask the lovely lady who made the cake for us at our 200th, I'm sure she'll be more than happy to oblige. So I will get in touch with the lovely Cakefinity as soon as this show finishes.
That was the best cake ever, wasn't it? I loved it.
I know, it's incredible, wasn't it? Because it was gluten-free, dairy-free and soya-free. So it didn't matter what allergen you had, it was suitable for you. It was.
Yeah,
I mean,
I never got a piece.
No, it's because we ate it all, because I like cake. So
we had our cake and
Yes.
Yeah, I like cake and you like beer, Pip. It should have been a perfect marriage, really. Indeed. Anyway, that's where we are going to bring the show to a close. So, any other business before we press the go button?
No, I think that's it. And just remains for me and everybody else to thank you very much indeed for tuning in again this week. And we're back on Friday next week.
Yeah, no Carlos again next week, honestly. Yeah, I know he's working next Friday, and unfortunately our diaries, myself and Nev, we're unable to do any other day other than the Friday. So yes, so it's me and Nev again, and hopefully someone else. We don't know who that is yet, but we'll be going for 1800 UTC as always. So join us if you can. From everyone who's on the show tonight, everyone say goodbye, everyone. Bye bye.
Take care,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.